This is a special short edition of the Catholic Family Podcast. I'm Kevin Davis, broadcasting from Reitenwinkel, Germany. I'm very fortunate today to be in a corner of the world, tucked in here in the Alps, a beautiful snowy day. And I think I'm going to go out and enjoy the sun and appreciate God's beautiful nature and God's beautiful world, because it's a hard time right now in America. It's very difficult to watch, even from over here. Obviously, coming from America, it's not pleasant to see what's going on. And I think that I don't want to talk about that now. I don't want to talk about the politics. I don't want to get into that. But I do want to get into things we've talked about before, really briefly, and having hope in God only, and not having hope in politics, and having hope in men, and having hope in our countries. We should have love of our countries, and patriotism, especially to a certain extent, is good. But when you put too much of that hope in men, it will always fail. We must have that hope in God. And to end this very short podcast, I will have Father Borja give a little bit of a very, very 1 minute short helpful tip for us. He actually recorded it just shortly before 2021, and I didn't actually publish it, but I think it's still very fitting in the fact that he tells us to put our faith and our trust in God. And I really do think that we need to get together and discuss ways to push through these difficult times together as Catholics. I think we could be in for a rough go of it, and I think that even possibly in some ways persecuted. And I think that we need to find ways to stay optimistic and stay hopeful and faithful. And if that's, being together and doing things together and having each other's backs, I think that's really important. And I think that in the times to come, I think we will have to get off of social media. I think that it becomes more and more poisonous, in my opinion. I'm no expert. I'm no priest. I'm not telling you what you need to do. But I mean, speaking for myself, I think that it is time that we really need to get off these poisonous means of communication. I think we need to find better ways of communication. We need to find better ways of spending our time. And again, speaking for myself, it's just a detriment, I think, to so many different aspects of our lives. It's a detriment to our bodies, I think, sitting and looking at a screen, and it's a detriment to our brains, because you have so much information and your brain starts to think in a different way and starts to act in a different way because you have so much information overload and you have so much stimulation that it's not healthy for your brain. And of course, most importantly for our souls, that I think it is a detriment to our souls to have so much hatred and so much fighting and so much evil really spread on these social media networks. Now, some people, I think you can find ways to block that out a bit and only have certain friends. And if that's what you want to do, then do it. But I think today my recommendation is that we all, at least for a time, get off of social media and go and read books and spend time outdoors and remark to ourselves on the beauty of what God has given us, and that what we have now, we don't know we will always have, and to appreciate what we have and to appreciate God's little gifts and God's little things, and to know that whatever happens in this life, whatever happens in our own countries, wherever we live, that God is what matters, and that the faith is what matters, and that no matter the difficulties in the world, we will get through this if we put our faith and our trust in God. So I just wanted to speak for myself, for anyone listening. Please have some optimism, have some hope. Don't put it in Donald Trump. Don't put it in the political system. Put it in God. Go and pray more. Go and read more. Go spend some time outdoors. And I'm really speaking more for myself, but as for anyone I know who's been on this podcast, I know they would all tell you the same. Don't get down. Don't get depressed. Don't let them win. If you get down and depressed, and if you let this become an emotional letdown, an emotional pitfall, then the devil wins, and that's what we cannot let happen. We must stay optimistic, we must stay hopeful, and we must persevere. And I will finish this short podcast with a quick little I guess you could say sermon, a little hopeful line from Father Borja, who again, he recorded this at the end of 2020, but I think is very fitting for the times we are now in.
As 2020 comes to an end and we begin a new year, we know that this past year may have been a rough year, but nevertheless, God was in control and God continues to be in control. And so it is that I'd like to give two quotes that will hopefully help us to be positive for this upcoming year. And the first one is, to those who love God, all things work together unto good. And it's very important for us to remind ourselves of this because of the fact that we need to focus on our salvation. We need to focus on our spiritual life and know that if we love God, all things will work together unto good, that God's will be done in all things. And second is that if God is with us, then who is against us? And so it is that we are on God's team and he will have the final victory. And that should be a huge encouragement to all of us to persevere in the practice of our Catholic faith.